and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bear with me a minute. And I've got all my papers mixed up. Okay. I'd like to take a moment, make a moment of silence for the 19 children and 2 teachers killed at the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, and all those killed and wounded in the senseless mass shootings since Sandy Hook. On a lighter note, it was wonderful attending graduation last Friday evening. It felt like things were finally getting back to normal. The weather was great and the alumni speaker was inspirational. I'm glad we instituted that tradition, I guess now it is. I wish the 2022 graduates all the best of luck with whatever paths they choose in their futures. We don't have a student spotlight tonight or on our liaisons or off on this. We do?
I have it.
Hey,
have it.
very
There you
good.
go.
Okay. Okay.
Month for high schools, Memorial High School Student Spotlight Program recognizes students who have demonstrated outstanding achievement, character, leadership, attitude, and/or contributes to the school and community. May's Student Spotlight honoree is Seth Cat. Seth was nominated by his fellow peers and teachers who all believe he's deserving of this award. Senior Kyle Bush has said that in his nomination, Seth is one of the kindest people in the school. He always has great attitude, has great sense of humor. In our group in Mr. Smith's class, he's always a hard worker and knows how to get everything done. Senior Alex Brower also gives Seth during the award, stating Seth always has a smile on his face, has a positive attitude 24/7. You can always turn to him to talk to. Seth's teacher, Mr. Smith, said, tough to summarize in a few words someone like Seth. Seth is a thoughtful, kind, and deep young man. I can always count on him for insightful comments in class and engaging conversation. Not only do Seth's close friends see the hard work and respectful individual he is, classmate Caleb Endy says, I do not see or interact with Seth very often, but the few times I have, he's always been very kind. Whenever I see him speaking to an adult in the building, he speaks to them with the utmost respect. CMHS nurse Mrs. Brower writes, Seth is going to a mature, kind, empathetic individual. He has the insight of a person beyond his years. He's extremely polite and engaging to speak with. We all have obstacles in our life to conquer, some bigger than others. Seth is faced with grace and bravery. I'm very proud of the young man he has become. Overall, Seth embodies the definition of a true student spotlight recipient. When asked what motivates him, Seth says, I feel like each day is something different. And I have a palette of colors which I instinctively bounce between throughout the week, month, and year to keep pulling it myself. Kind of like kneading bread. I just stay positive for other people's sake when I can because I understand how far it goes. But his future Seth states, my plans for the future include attempting to have a happy existence and living simply. Finally, Seth's message to the school community, school is not a race. Do not get discouraged. Ask for help when needed. It is your job as a young adult to graduate and move on to society almost seamlessly. Asking for help plays a huge role in personal mental health itself. So don't make life more difficult on yourself. If there's an embarrassment you are afraid of, then remember this. Don't ask for help now. Try and help yourself excel in that category of academics. And the problem will never mend itself, it only stay more. You'll become more of a gap in your knowledge. That's May's student spotlight. Tremendous young man.
Okay, my bad. I skipped over citizens' comments. If anyone has a comment to make at this time, I would ask you to limit it to 3 minutes and state your name and address for our secretary here. Are there any citizens' comments at this time?
I've been on the board nearly 5 years. I thought that this graduation was one of the best in terms of messages conveyed to the students by all involved, from the keynote speaker on down to Superintendent Smith, Dr. Mayo, the salutatorian and valedictorian. They all had very meaningful and compelling messages, and I thought everybody was really listening intently. I didn't really see a lot of people fidgeting, but they were focused on the fact that, this was a hard class, that hard things happened to this class, and they were cognizant of telling them that, don't give up, keep persevering. And I love that the strong message was that, that's very compelling. I really enjoyed it, and I think it was one of the better ones, the best ones, I think, so far that I've got. I just want to say kudos to everybody that put it together, from building, maintenance, to safety, to everyone. So it was a nice job, and it was requested.
Our student liaison is not here tonight. He has a personal grievance. His grandfather died. Yeah. Adam Anderson. So we will move along to approval of minutes. Our regular meeting of May 9th, 2022. And the special meeting of May 18th, 2022. Want to do them together or individually? Together, okay. So. Okay,
I'll second it.
okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on either of these sets of minutes? Hearing no discussion, I'll put the motion to the floor for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes from May 9th and May 18th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, say nay. Abstentions? Motion passes. The next up, Matt, policy subcommittee update.
Yes. Policy subcommittee met and we discussed the advanced course participation, the extracurricular eligibility, and the gifted and talented policy. And we based on what Dr. Jones presented, we suggested some edits, and that's what's presented to us tonight for.
Right, and we have to have these, I hope you all read them
By July 1st.
first. Right, they have to be in by July 1st, approved by July 1st. So I hope you all read them.
They're basically laid out by the APE guidelines and filled in with the pertinent details with some edits.
Yeah, for your information, we're using two sources now for our policies. We're using CABE service and we're using to save money. And we're using for some of our other policies and updating services, we're using our lawyers. But for a lot of the new policies, we're using CABE's guidelines. Since that's a service that is a lot less expensive. Okay, so, okay, that will come later in the program as far as a motion goes. You have a question,
Can I
Tom?
ask a question about this?
Sure.
So on, I think it's the last page, actually, extracurricular eligibility,
Mhm.
policy versus practice. This one was geared towards the sports, but I thought that it also is relative to like band, other, other, what do you want to call it?
Extracurricular.
Yeah, there you go.
Mhm.
Kind of in the title, that was
Right.
the title.
So before,
Yeah.
it was just a practice as opposed to a policy. It was more informal, and it was, kids with lower grades could not attend events.
Right.
So this is to make things more inclusive. and to encourage attending school events as opposed to going downtown.
Do we cover that with just this paragraph? Because the way I read it was for just sports.
It's going to go in the handbook because it's been a verbal practice, and we would like to include it in the handbook. It's not one of the 3 policies that we're approving tonight. We're improving the gifted policy, the advanced placement, and the tuition waiver.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
As I was that night,
Mhm.
but I just think the way that this one is worded, it sounds like it's only sporting events.
Right, right. And this was the language that we talked about, that we just want to memorialize this in the handbook. So when Dr. Mayo and Principal Granado actually update the handbook, we're going to add this in.
Right, but what Tom's getting at is it should be all extracurricular.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Yeah, I think,
Okay,
I don't know, just reread it again. I just thought this was too concise.
We can work on that.
I think it's that last line
Yes, the
where
last
it's,
sentence,
where
yeah.
it's the adhere to the interscholastic academic standards for athletics only for the athletic teams for which they're designed to oversee.
Mhm.
So were we holding the sports teams not only to the interscholastic requirements, but also? Because that
Okay.
seems like it's,
That line, to be honest with you, was just basically to almost state that. That was the rules set up by the CIAC and will only be regarding app. So that maybe it was a confusing language. We do that, but that's really the purpose of that last line, was that we will hold to what the CIAC tells us we have to hold to for athletics. But that's kind of what the buck will stop it.
okay.
We'll only do that.
And
I just want to make sure you're not limited.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, yeah. The phrasing of it.
all right, well, we can,
As a practice, this is not due by July 1st. That's the other thing.
Okay, all right, good.
all right, well, you can look at fleshing that out to make it more clearer, that it pertains to all, like proms and school
Well, yeah,
dances and,
right,
yeah,
Correct.
okay. The next would be retirements, your reports, is
So we
retirement.
have 2 new retirements this month. The first is Virginia Moylan, and I don't see her in the crowd this evening. Virginia had put in her letter of resignation as of August 1st. She is a grade 5 teacher at Thompson Middle School. She's been a teacher for the district for many years. Virginia is going to move, or Ginny is going to move on to starting her own business. She does some teen counseling. And her client population has really started to pick up. And it's a time in her life that she feels like she wants to do something different, still work with students, but do something different. And so she appreciates all the time that she's been here. I don't know, Kim, if you want to say anything about Ginny, but we thank her for her service. We have a certificate that we'll give to Ginny, and we have some flowers. She'll be here tomorrow for PD, but Kim, I didn't know if you wanted to say anything.
Love the staff. It's just a positive person. She was brought a lot of positivity and passion. She's a beautiful person inside and out. We wish her the best.
Thank you. And then the next retirement is our security coordinator, Ben Barber. He sends his regrets. He has some family obligations and couldn't be with us this evening. Ben was very instrumental in putting together our current security program. He built the program when we didn't really have a program, and modeled it a bit after Woodstock Academy's program, but really brought it to the place where it is today. We really thank Ben for his years of service here. He has worked tirelessly, especially through COVID, really putting together the security team. So we wish him the best on his second retirement, because he retired once before from corrections and now retiring from Thompson Public Schools. And we also have flowers for Mr. Barber, and we'll give those to him tomorrow. His very last day, he's actually still doing training for Bradley folks. So he's working up to the very bitter end. So good luck to Ben. You want me to keep
Oh,
going,
keep
Kathleen?
going. Sure.
That's it for the retirements. And the next is teacher recalls. We have one teacher recall that we want to bring back. It is Audrey Ratliff, who's at Mary R. Fisher Elementary School. She's going to be brought back to her grade 4 position. At this time, that is the only layoff recall that we have.
Between the retirements and recalls, do we have any idea as to where we're gonna end up? I mean, obviously, like you hear, other school systems are down 73 positions. Are we in
no.
any, like, where are we at with resignations, recalls, and et cetera?
Michelle, I know you're on Zoom. If you could give us a little update on where we are with hiring. She's got her hand raised.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so sorry I couldn't be there in person tonight. So we currently are going to have 2 positions open in Mary R. Fisher Elementary School. 4 positions open in Thompson Middle School, and 4 positions, possibly 3, open in Tortolot Memorial High School. I was going to put this in my update. I'm actively canvassing through School Spring, CT Reap, Handshake, college recruitment platform, as well as Indeed. And then I am outsourcing to a couple recruitment platforms for job fairs through the summer. I have 2 of them scheduled right now in July, and I'm looking for a couple more for August.
So we're not in that bad a shape.
No.
And I do know the principals have been busy interviewing. And I'm hoping that I'm going to see some finalists soon in my office. Yes? Okay, thank you.
This covers paras, teachers, pretty much district-wide, any, or is it only union or non-union?
So that's the certified staff. Michelle, do you have any idea how many para openings we have? I know Mr. Jones might. 4. Thank you.
4 para openings right now and 1 central office opening.
And Lisa, how's food service? We're good? All right. We do have a resignation in our technology department. We have Tracy Vashon, who is leaving us to move out of state. So Heather will be looking for a network manager. That's a loss to us all. You know, we're sad to see Tracy go. She's a good member of the team, works hard, never says a word, just puts her nose down and does the work. But we'll be posting that tomorrow.
So is that in addition to the 15 then? So now we have 16, or is that part of the 15?
No, there's the tech one just came in most recently.
That's the central office one that I mentioned. I
Oh,
didn't say it by name.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is included. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
It's not great, but it's not as bad as Killenly.
I didn't mention the name, but I heard on the radio.
I knew who you were talking about. Yeah, I know, that's
This is typical. This is just about typical 10 to 15.
right. There's something wrong there. But you didn't hear it from me, I guess. I don't know. There's got to be something. All right.
Would you like me to make a motion to recall all?
We don't have to make that motion. We don't do that anymore.
Yes, you have.
We
to-
do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought we didn't have to. Okay, yeah, I'm okay. So we do have to, we have to make a motion then to recall Audrey Ratcliffe?
Ratliff, yep.
Ratcliffe. All right, there's a motion. Second, discussion? None? Hey, all in favor of recalling Audrey Ratcliffe?
Mhm.
Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstention? Motion passes unanimous. Okay, next in order is Nick.
So we invited Nick Whipple, and if you were at the scholarship and award night, it was announced that Nick Whipple had done some extraordinary work while he was working at the YMCA, and he actually saved an individual's life. And one of the things that we wanted to highlight is that Nick actually was trained in our EMR class here in Thompson, Turtle Up Memorial High School. And so we invited him here, but he is on the trip with Project Graduation because he's a senior. I hear they're having a wonderful time and their bus doesn't come back in until 8 o'clock. And that's why Mrs. Grauer isn't here this evening because she was a chaperone on that trip. But she did call me this morning and they are having a ball. And Nick did extend his regrets for not being here tonight. We will mail him a certificate on behalf of the board for his quick response to actually helping a man that almost drowned. So, but he got his EMR cert here at Thompson Public Schools. So we were pretty excited about that. And he's going on to fire science next year. And he was in our fire safety class this year under the direction of Mr. Sinay, Jamie Sinay. All right. So we're going to roll into curriculum update. And if you remember at the beginning of the year, we were lucky enough to use some grant funding to hire 3 teachers as curriculum leaders. As you all know, our curriculum was in bad need of revision, and we needed someone to lead that work. And so I am going to invite Patty Chenille, Laura Stefanski, and Lucy Trudeau up to do a presentation about what they've been up to all year. They've also invited some colleagues here to talk about how the work that they've done in the school system has impacted them and their professional growth. So I'm going to turn it over to the 3 of you. We are lucky that some of the replacement came in under budget, so we're able to offer both Patty and Laura another year of curriculum work, which we need desperately. As far as implementation and instructional coaching, and Lucy 1 day a week. Kim figured out the schedule, and so she'll be able to do that 1 day a week in her schedule. So ladies, I'm turning it over to you. Tell us what you've been up to for the year. You should stand up.
Sorry, we're all doing this. You all have copies of.
So they have the 3, Danielle. They have grade 8, English language arts, and science. But I don't know if that's all we gave tonight, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. We want to kill a lot of trees.
So we thought we would talk about the process, and then we're going to talk about constraints to the process. Overall goals. So, and then we're going to talk about our individual stuff. The first thing we had to do was create a template. So what you see in front of you was the culmination of many templates that were looked at. The Curriculum Council revised them, threw some out, and we decided ultimately on one that gave a lot of information in a very concise manner. So that's why we have this template. It needed to be modified though, because math, ELA, and science are all very different. So when you look at, say, ELA versus the science template, the front page is going to look very much the same, but when you go further in, the headings will be very different because each discipline has very different specific needs. So that's why they look different. One thing that was really important to all of us is that we had to establish some common vocabulary in each content area. And that vocabulary is going to start in kindergarten and it's going to go all the way up through high school. And for our students to be more successful, we have to talk the same way to them. Also, we have some common vocabulary that's going to be common through each discipline. So they had a lot of transfer, and that's going to also make them more successful. So vocabulary was huge. And while we haven't implemented this curriculum yet, that's going to be very important going forward. It's really important to also know that these documents are first drafts. These are works in progress. We're going to implement next year, but by the end of next year, we'll all come together again. We'll talk about things that were very successful, and we're going to talk about things that were not successful. So we will modify them as we get all of that information. So we thought it's kind of important to look at these. So as you look at, like, I have the yellow one in front of me. It tells you the unit, the number of the unit, the title of that, and the link to the summative assessments, and then the instructional days. So those are all really important, because as we go along, the instructional days, and it might change, and the summative assessments are probably going to be tweaked, so that this will be a work in progress, but you'll be able to see everything there, and they're all linked, they're bookmarked, so on the live document that the teachers are going to use, they can hit the home page and they're going to go right to where they need to go. On the ELA document, the math document, they have the overview on that first page. In the science document, it was better to put my overview on the title page. So that's one difference you'll see. But then we have the standards that are linked to it, essential questions, learning targets, and everything that's in that right-hand column are the resources that the teachers are going to use. So those things are very similar on all the documents you're going to see. The wording on the top is just a little different, depending on what discipline you have. That last column is going to not be visible to the public, the resources, and on all of the documents that are going to be on the website, it says for teacher use only. So that will not be visible.
We don't want students or parents being able to know exactly what resources are going to be used, but someone's trying to come in the back way and figure out, oh, I'm going to find the answer key, or I'm going to, that sort of thing. We want teachers to have those professional.
There's also a section there that has alignment to the POG, and that's going to be one of our focuses for next year, is how can we align the curriculum in specific areas to the POG. Our hope is that we're going to be able to do that with interdisciplinary units, which will make it very, I think, more real to the kids, because then they see that math is in ELA and ELA is in science, and then science is in history as well. So we want to make them very real to the kids, because then we'll get buy-in from them. It's all about them wanting to do something. So we want to have something that's exciting. So, and last for our processes, this year, we were talking about this morning. This year has become so much more than just coordinating and leading curriculum work. We created many workspaces for teachers. We researched and we found resources to improve instruction. We supported preparation for the standardized testing. And through our work with the state, we were able to share and work with our school to support new legislative changes. So there's a lot going on in ELA, and there's a bunch of stuff going on in math. And those are really important. We attended those meetings. We brought all that back to the district. So that's just a little review of the overall process.
The constraints, we tried to keep those to a minimum, and we got very creative on, except for the opportunities or the disadvantages that we had when we had COVID cases and we had teachers out. We didn't have subs because they were being used to cover for teachers. We got very creative in that, I might have had a meeting with a second grade teacher and Laura didn't have a meeting on that day. So she said, well, I'll go cover that second grade teacher so you can meet with the second grade teacher to get the work done. So we covered for each other and went into the classrooms and covered so that we could get our work done. We underestimated the magnitude of the high school work with the pathways and just the sheer number of courses. the intercession courses that were being offered. So we have we've got some of that work in place, but it's not complete. And so that is work that is going to be focused on for next school year, is the high school courses. Our top priority coming out of the classroom and having to work with our peers was teacher buy-in. That we understand, we've been in the classroom, we know what you're going through. We are not the end all be all, we don't know everything, and that we wanted the input from the staff. So that was, we saw that as a top priority, and we thought it would be a constraint, but it actually turned out pretty good. So we're very, very happy. We knew that we needed to build trust and to establish, mutual respect with our colleagues. And I do feel that, we were able to do that.
We've come a long way, but we feel like we still have a lot of goals, and I'll kind of just briefly go over some of the ones we have for the next school year. Our greatest concern for next year is implementing the curriculum, transitioning all of the staff to use their new teaching documents, rolling out a process for revision. As part of this, we will establish a professional learning community where teachers can share and discuss their successes, problem solve when they run into challenges, and then really just, take time to communicate the things that they need. We're going to be aligning this work with our portion of a graduate. And we've started this process, but we really plan to fully support it next year by creating these cross-curricular tasks, projects that draw from standards in several different content areas that will demonstrate, what a Thompson graduate is capable of. We're going to complete the drafting process in kindergarten and grades 9 through 12. And, with the sheer number of courses in the high school, and the priority in kindergarten being their National Association for the Education of Young Children accreditation, we were not really able to complete the documents in these grades, but moving into next year, we'll be able to plan for this and to ensure that this group isn't marginalized. And then lastly, we're going to be establishing horizontally aligned grade level vocabulary. And I know that Lucy mentioned that earlier, specifically in grades 5 through 8, where you have multiple teachers, but that you have that team model where you share that group of kids. So to demonstrate to our students how words have multiple meanings and can really be applied in each content area. And through this, though this concept isn't new, we have not had established lists aligned in our curriculum documents. That's science.
So, we have some goals for next year. We're pretty excited about going to the next step because we worked really hard to establish our curriculums, but actually implementing it and taking it to the next level is really exciting. So one of the highlights of my year was getting science established as a unified art in the elementary school. Elementary, we have a whole new appreciation for elementary teachers as we found out how vast what they have to get through is. And so we were trying to figure out ways that we could make it easier to do what they have to do and still incorporate science. And so establishing that as a unified art was the thing to do. So Lena Canoia is going to be that teacher. So part of what I'm going to do next year is working together to establish a good space, to use our kits that we get from FOSS and help her implement them, and to make that a wonderful thing for the kids to get science at least once a week. So that's pretty exciting. That's pretty exciting for all of us. There's going to be a large emphasis on high quality instruction, HQI. And because next gens were a three-dimensional model, sometimes that looks like chaos in the classroom. And that's okay. It's supposed to look like chaos. But as a teacher, we're going to have to learn how to model that in a better way. And so we have a lot of PD planned to get us going in that right direction. And a lot of that is letting go of control. You have to let them make mistakes. And that's the hardest thing as a teacher to do. So that's going to be a big concept. One of the biggest things is something that we're going to do that's going to intertwine ELA and science directly, is the establishment of district-wide lab reports. And they're going to start in kindergarten in some way, shape, or form. We're working on that, and they're going to continue through high school. The model that's used in 8th grade is similar to the model that they use in high school. So our goal is to each grade level to add one more thing. And in order to do that, Every grade level is going to use interactive science notebooks. They go hand in hand with the kits that we use, and they lead themselves directly to making observations, predictions, explanation, error analysis. So it is a natural progression to a lab report, but more importantly than the lab report, it's incorporating ELA standards, and we're doing a lot more right now, and that's really, really important. So I'll give you an example. You think of how is it kindergarten? They're going to do it with pictures. They're going to do it with pictures. And then as they progress with the number of words they use, they'll add a word to those pictures. And that's going to stay with them so they'll have their notebooks with their lab report will be in there, and that's going to stay with them as they progress through the grades in a folder. So we're going to see how it progresses. Big things, PLCs, we already talked about them. I mean, it's really important. PLCs are important. And I think that's it. I have a few words from some of the colleagues, and then I'm going to let Liz talk for a minute. So from Judy Perkins, she says, working together with Lucy on science curriculum this year has been very useful. The process of reviewing and organizing the curriculum material helped to streamline the lessons and activity planning process. Having regular access to someone such as Lucy, who has a deep knowledge of curriculum, along with classroom experience in implementing curriculum, was extremely valuable. The document created is comprehensive and user-friendly. It will be very useful for all science teachers going forward. I want to thank Lucy for her expertise. Then from Lena, the opportunity provided with time to collaborate with different grade levels to write a district-wide science curriculum was invaluable. As a new elementary K-4 science teacher, I'm excited to have a comprehensive document for each grade that aligns with the next generation of science standards, building on content and complexity as the students progress through the grades.
We were fortunate enough to get some
We get
teachers
some
that,
teachers.
would be willing to talk about their experience throughout this year.
I'm Lynn Jewett, I'm a teacher in the elementary school, and as Lucy stated, time was something that came up. How differently elementary levels from middle school are concerned. I could take another 10 hours a day to get everything done, but we are constantly in motion. So, as she said, having a designated block is motion time for science. Also, as we wrote the curriculum, we realized it was like a working document. It was probably changing, and that would be because our world is constant motion, as we know. Keep up, be competitive in a friendly way. This curriculum is something that will keep us on our toes. It will give us more consistency across the grade levels. Students will come out with a skill set that everyone should have the same skill set, the same foundational skills. Everyone should be successful. That's important to keep us, I guess, in alignment with one another. So going from 3rd grade to 4th grade or wherever, I know where I'm going and I know where I've been, and it's important to me. Also, the collaboration. I cannot stress to you how wonderful it was to be able to spend just a little bit of time with colleagues, and not just my own team members, but people that I don't normally, I didn't even know in high school and middle school that I had the opportunity to meet. So it's nice to hear feedback. It's nice to see what their perspective is and what their challenges are. They're quite different from our elementary challenges. But to be able to bounce ideas off others was huge, huge. It just toes. I mean, my team is really close. We're constantly yelling at each other, and that helps. In good, yeah. But it was nice to hear from the middle school and the high school. And Lucy gave a really good can. Yes, definitely something that we glad to hear.
Okay, so in math, so So earlier, with your presentation in the fall, Melinda made you aware that I received a scholarship for some master's level work in becoming a math specialist. I'm happy to report that I did complete my program, so I am a certified math specialist at this point. So that was a big undertaking, and I'm very excited about that. I also had the opportunity, I was invited by the State Department of Education to participate in developing the model curriculum for the state of Connecticut for grades 6 through 8 in mathematics. We completed that work and had a big press conference during April vacation with the governor, and that program is launched on the Go Open CT website. So Thompson was represented. I was only one of 2 teachers in the state that was invited to participate. So I tried to get us on the map. So I'm very excited about that. For next school year, I kind of broke my goals into the 3 schools. I am going to continue some coursework to be able to be certified to train our elementary teachers, special ed and regular ed teachers in early assessment and intervention in mathematics, with the hopes, with the desire to improve our math scores and the skills of our students in mathematics. I'm also wanting to build thinking classrooms in the middle school. Lucy alluded to the fact that, things are changing, and the kids that we have in front of us now are not the same kids that we had 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We can't teach these kids the same way that we taught kids back then. They need to explore, they need to develop strategies on their own. I can't regurgitate and cram an algorithm down their throat and expect that they're going to understand what that means. They need to have deeper understanding. And the best way to do that is for them to have productive struggle and to work, collaboratively with their classmates and work on deep problem solving. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be working on in middle school next year. With the high school, working with the high school math teachers to complete the scope and sequence for the plethora of courses offered at the high school level. And of course, the revising and implementing of the curriculum that we do have written for grades 1 through 8. I'm planning on, at the end of each unit, meeting with each group of teachers and saying, okay, let's look at the student work. Let's look at and planning, trying to come up with common assessments, and planning what went well in your unit, what didn't go well, what do we need to add, what do we need to, move or tweak. We should change the sequence so that next year, at the end of the year, next year, our documents will be final and we'll know where we're heading after that. I too received much feedback from those that I worked with. In particular, one of the teachers, gave me some feedback, and this was Lori Chisonic, and she's been involved in curriculum also on and off, for a number of years. And, we have done some work over many summers, but, always got little snippets and little pieces, and we never really got to get anything, just never time to get anything finished. And she, the strongest statement that she made to me was that she really liked the process once the curriculum leaders were in place, because we had the time to collaborate both in large and small groups, as well as individually with me. She felt that I listened to her concerns and her suggestions, and loved the fact that she had someone to actually talk math with that was a math person. And once the format was settled, the process was so smooth, and like everything else, would love more time to be able to do that. And there are several others, and I'll share those with you at some other point, but I think we're in agreement. It's been a positive year for us.
English language arts, first and foremost, the focus for next year will be implementing and revising our documents, and for me, providing teachers with as much support as they need in doing this. Some of our other major focuses include overhauling our approach to writing instruction in grades K through 8. In grades K through 6, we've been given the opportunity to participate in a federal literacy grant called Think SRSD, which stands for Self-Regulated Strategic Development. And this program will teach students how to use the close reading and writing process independently and equip them with the skills and strategies to become more self-regulated, successful writers. This literacy initiative includes free professional development and materials, and the approach can be used to implement our newly adopted curriculum, and it is aligned with our portrait of a Thompson graduate. I'm looking to provide classroom teachers PD to better understand the sources of reading difficulties at the middle level. With all of my, experience now working with the elementary and just understanding as a secondary teacher how much I don't understand about early literacy, and how that's evolving and changing. And as middle school teachers, we really need to have a better grasp of that. So to take a closer look at our practices in this area and create an aligned plan that focuses on how vocabulary can accelerate literacy, text complexity, close reading, and coordinating with our reading specialists to actually create a fluency program at TLS. I also was fortunate enough to work with a group of highly motivated, talented teachers, and a few of them, wrote something up for me. Lisa Rice, was kind enough to share. It was how it was a great experience for her this year. How, initially she was not assigned to be the ELA curriculum person. However, it was an exceptional learning experience, and she really valued the time spent having professional discussions around our current programming and practices. These discussions, paired with the work of writing the curriculum, has made me a better teacher. As a result of the work, I've been able to make some positive changes to my delivery and instruction, and I believe these changes had a favorable impact on my students and their performance. And she really looks forward to continuing to work on this next year. And Kaylee and Taft, who I've worked with closely this year, also volunteered to come and say a few words about her experiences.
So I did write something up just because it's been a long day, and when I close my eyes, I see boxes and packing tape. It was an exceptional opportunity for, first of all, our district to have Lucy and Laura and Patty heading this curriculum effort. Laura, Patty, and Lucy are a tremendous asset to our school community. Collectively, they have so much knowledge, and I think I always knew that, but getting to witness it firsthand was amazing. Not only do they have all that knowledge, but they are extremely open to learning more about how our students in elementary school learn, as well as how our classroom environments contribute to student learning, because that classroom is the environment that Lynn referred to. It definitely impacts the way that our curriculum is delivered. And you guys were so open to that. It was really appreciated. They were always willing to jump in, to answer questions, to respond to a text really quickly, and just jump in, help, and really keep us motivated with this process. Working with the standards to create the third grade curriculum, for me, it allowed me to garner just a much, much deeper understanding of not only the third grade language arts standards, but how those standards evolve throughout the school year. We might teach about character or point of view, but it really scaffolded throughout the school year. And diving into that was a great learning experience for me. Our curriculum meetings provided me with so much time where I could research the standards. I could reflect on my own teaching. I could collaborate with Laura, and that couldn't be replaced by anything. It was an inspiring experience, which definitely made me a better teacher this year. I know staffing was a challenging process, but thank you to the administrators. You guys stayed true to this process and really remained dedicated to making sure that we can see this process through to fruition. That was such a positive thing and hasn't always happened in many years prior. So thank you. As an educator, I couldn't be more thankful for this whole process. The process of creating curriculum was intense, but the support from Laura was phenomenal, and I feel super lucky to be part of it.
This is a culmination of a year's work. What we will have on the website, and Heather's going to debut the website in a few minutes, we will have 1 through 8 documents in ELA, math, and science available on the website. You saw some samples, but why this is important is because we can direct parents there if they want to know, well, what's the curriculum in grade 2 mathematics? Well, here it is, and this is how I can help my child at home. For the teachers, this curriculum is written so that it becomes non-negotiable, so that every teacher at every grade level, this is your roadmap. This is what you need to teach. These are the skills that you need to secure at your grade level. because your colleague, either before or after you, is going to rely on the fact that the students have already learned the content from the previous year. They're going to rely on that and continue their curriculum instruction for their grade appropriate curriculum. The third thing is that this is also a document that our evaluators, our principals are going to use, that they can monitor instruction in the implementation of instruction and make sure everybody's rowing in the same direction. One of the issues that we have of being an opportunity district is that we were all working very hard in every classroom, and I can't say this enough. Our teachers are hard workers, but we weren't all pulling in the same direction, and we've got to get on the same page. And once we do that, you're going to start to see overall, test scores go up. Things will be better aligned, and every year they're going to tweak and revise the curriculum documents if they see something that needs to be, adjusted. But for the most part, we're going to have a completely aligned curriculum K-12, and that's our mission. And this year we got a lot accomplished in 1 year, I believe, and that's because the teachers themselves, even tomorrow, are still going to be working on their documents. And then we're hoping within the next couple of weeks, and I'm sure Heather will show us when she opens up the website where those curriculum documents are, but they're going to be live links. So if the teachers go in and adjust them, they'll automatically adjust on the website. So we're very excited about this work. We've never had it public before. And so we would have never gotten to where we're at right now if we didn't have the art money that we were able to devote to have people leading this work. You can't have a part-time person doing that, and you can't have one person doing that. You need content specialists to do that work. And I think these three ladies, they have worked hard, and you can hear by their colleagues coming to say that their work mattered. And you don't get that all the time. So thank you.
Wasn't this an area when we were going for the ES accreditation, we did not have a structured curriculum course. This will help us when ES comes back, we'll have the platform done.
Correct.
And we'll be probably 3 years into it by then.
Yes. Yes, and we'll have all of those. You know what's difficult? And Trish Tupai is back there, and I'm looking at her. So she is a department of one. So Trish is writing curriculum, right, Trish? You've got one course done, just about done. What do you want to talk about the difficulty? Right, she's writing it herself. So it's time consuming. And so we have a lot of teachers that are a department of one, right? And so it takes time to get all that information down into a curriculum template. Trish is part of our curriculum council. So we understand the constraints that a teacher who only teaches business and has to write all her business classes, which I think she teaches 5. So, we're hoping to get as many as we can down on paper so that also students can take a look at the scope and sequence of their work as they get older. But I'm excited about this work. So
100% implementation set for when?
So actually 1-8 next year, and then the following year for the remaining grades. But in ELA, math, and science, we haven't gotten to social studies yet. I hate to say this, right now it's a non-tested area, so we didn't put a whole lot of focus. However, social studies teachers did meet with ELA teachers because there are a lot of standards the social studies teacher can cover in their grade levels. And we need to see that kind of cohesiveness and interdisciplinary kind of mindset in the district. So maybe the ELA teacher is reading a novel in the same period that the social studies teacher is talking about. And brain research supports all of that. That connectivity and kids being able to make those connections from one class to the other is very important.
I wanted to that was one of my things I wanted to ask you guys. When I went to Turtle Rock, we had American Lit, and it was American history and English in one class, 2 hours, taught by 2 teachers. And I loved that class. It was Mrs. Bolton and Mrs. Delage. And I just was wondering if things like that would still be happening, or if it is still happening, and if there's not, if there's opportunities to kind of intertwine those kind of things. 'Cause for me, at least, that class was really poignant, and I just wasn't sure if it's kind of gone by the wayside as kind of years progress.
So that kind of class is powerful.
Is the Pete Rock class, which is incorporating, the music and the history together, but.
So I think back in the day that we had co-teaching and offered that experience. You had a certified social studies teacher and an ELA teacher teaching that class together. Over the years, obviously it comes down to dollars and cents. So what we're trying to do is that can there be some alignment between the teachers, even though they might be in separate classrooms, can they align their curriculum so that they're at least, teaching and reading the same period?
I mean, the class though had that, I'm sure it's still up there in the high school, it had that dividing wall that they would take down
Correct.
just for that class, so I don't know, just food for thought as you work through the high school kind of curriculum.
Yeah,
And
That
then,
comes down to staffing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so then my next question was, in your research so far, has there been kind of really eye-opening weaknesses in our curriculum? That this will help us, I didn't know if there were kind of real things that we kind of saw as a very.
I can speak from the math perspective. When I first started, and we really took a good look at what teachers were teaching. There were some grades that were teaching standards that weren't even in their grade, and possibly not getting to the standards that are in their grade. So having that opportunity to, to really look and to dive in and say, okay, this is really what you are responsible for. Oh, so I don't need to do this and I don't need to do that. And, so that was very eye-opening. That was in the beginning, and that I'm glad that came out in the very beginning, because it really helped set the stage for everything that I did going forward.
And how about like for standardized testing? I know that's not the end all be all, but obviously, it counts and it makes a difference in a lot of things. Is this now better aligned with how they are tested when those things come out?
I feel very confident in terms of math. So I will speak from my personal perspective, having been in eighth grade for more than 20 years. I always felt like the kids got to me and there was absolutely no geometry. Like, maybe third grade or fourth grade, they dabbled in a couple little things, but in eighth grade, that geometry standard is tested heavily. So I was teaching fourth grade standards, fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade standards to try to make up for the fact that I knew that my kids were going to get hit hard on those standardized tests. So being able to know what are the highest percentage of questions asked at each grade level really helped us when we developed the sequence. What sequence should we really be teaching this stuff to make sure that our kids are getting what they need when it comes time to teach?
I'll go back to the first one. In English language arts, writing was the big thing, which is why that ended up being a focus for the year and into next year. Just looking at from grade level to grade level, we haven't had these types of discussions in so many years that, the expectations in each grade level were vastly different. So being able to kind of pull that together and make some decisions around it, and having all kinds of staffing changes where, we don't have as big of a program in the middle school as we once did, and really just like figuring out how we were going to make that work and really direct our students. And then as far as the testing is concerned, the changeover from the CMTs to the SBAC test, even though we've been doing it for a few years, there's so much about it that people didn't really understand. And especially around writing, like that has changed even in the last few years with dropping the performance task and the way that they assess it, and just getting the whole staff to better understand that. And just to see like, okay, these are the types of questions that they're really asking, even though the way that we might instruct it is very different, because we have to balance that need for them to be successful in that area, but then for them to also become good writers in life. Right, so.
And my last question is just with the curriculum changes that you've made, do we have the resources and actual material in place? Is that in our budget if there's new stuff required?
So what we found out, especially in mathematics, was that the district years ago brought a really nice math program. And then we found that some grade levels, some teachers really weren't accessing those resources. And in order to kind of grow in the same direction, everybody needs to be using the same resources. We had them here, but not everyone was using what we had. And so these three women actually at every school, we had these rooms that a lot of curriculum stuff just got dumped into. And when I tell you it was kind of a mess, it was a mess. So these three women went in and they organized each one of these rooms. They inventoried everything that's in those rooms, sent that out to teachers, and everything in those rooms is now, you walk in, you know where each section is, there's a table there for teachers to take those materials and look through them. And then tomorrow, our elementary folks and our middle school folks are having a refresher on the materials that we did have in place because we had staff changes. That they're getting a refresher on the Bridges program that we have. Is it
K-5.
K-5, and then CPM, right? 6 through 12. So there's professional development all day tomorrow on those materials. So we do have them. We did buy the extended CPM materials, and we had to buy the resources for those grade levels that weren't necessarily implementing them.
Bring some of the stuff up to date.
Yeah, so, and Patty took care of all of that. So I am confident that we have what we need. Besides, we had a lot of stuff. It just wasn't organized. So if you open the door in those rooms, you didn't even want to go in. But now everything's organized, and we do have a lot of materials. They just needed to be sorted through.
So it makes it sound like for a while, we had curriculum stuff. We maybe even had a curriculum, but it was, I'm not picking on anyone in particular, but it's like, oh, well, I've done it this way for 20 years, and this is the way I'm going to keep doing it, even though it's a modern 2020 standard. Is that the case in a couple instances?
I wouldn't exactly say that. Like we didn't have like set aligned curriculum documents. The things like actual written documents hadn't been done in many years. And even though there have been pockets of it in the past, it's been, I'm going to do this grade like in a vacuum, you know, not where we're discussing it, where we've put the time and the energy and the manpower and dedicated, you know, ourselves to creating those. And even the things that we did have were more like a product, you know, a program and not a curriculum,
Right.
and they're not the same thing.
Okay.
I wanted to say thank you for your ladies' work. You guys do an amazing job. And as a parent of a child who was in your class last year, and I know you had to play catch up because there was 2 years that they really didn't have a consistent math teacher. And now we have many freshmen that can barely handle pre-algebra. My daughter's one of them. So to have this cohesive program starting is going to be huge for these students, and I'm super excited about it. And I also think it comes full circle too with how some of these kids are socially and mentally and emotionally handling things because they just might not be there. And I think this curriculum will also be the confidence booster they need, kind of coming full circle. So I think that this is going to help with a lot of situations that we have in the district. And I just want to thank you very much. I would like to see for the budget season next year that we make sure that curriculum leadership is included. Make sure that teams that don't want us to start on something and then derail it in the middle of it when it has the potential to do something phenomenal things to certify.
That's the very conversation I had this morning with these three women. You know, we figured out, I mean, I haven't gone through and Bill will talk about finances, but Bill and I haven't had a minute to sit down and actually go through the ESER 2 and the ESER 3 our grant and see what kind of monies are left and when they expire. And how can we stretch this as far as we can? Because the work, the real hard work, I mean, we have nice documents and everybody will know what is supposed to be taught. But when you're in the classroom and you're actually implementing, you need someone to speak to. And, you know, job and professional development or coaching is the best way to get the most bang for your buck. And I think that's what we got out of these three women this year. I certainly learned a lot with them. And I know just, you know, dabbling, I was a curriculum director for 8 years, but I was a curriculum director and, you know, I had a certain area of expertise. but I wasn't a math teacher, so I had to get other teachers to work under me to get that math work done. We've got Patty, and she's, passionate about getting this work done, and the teachers trust her, and that's the biggest thing I think out of the 3 women, that the teachers trust working with them, and it's not that they're spies to the administrators and they're coming back and that's not what happens. What happens is they come back and advocate for the teachers and the students. And I love that about them, and we can have professional disagreements sometimes, and we worry about a lot of things together, but I think, and I thank you for thanking them because it was a lot of work, and, coming out of the classroom to do that work is awkward at first, and then they became consumed, and they were so busy all the time, I couldn't even get a meeting with them. So that's good to see. So I agree with you, Jessica. I do believe that we have to figure out a way to keep that going, and we'll stretch that grant money as far as we can, right, Phil?
Well, I think Jessica's point is even when the grants run out, we need to earmark some funds in our budget, ongoing budgets, just to continue this program. And that continues, I think it will be less and less once these are finalized. And it'll be just tweaking them,
It's for the instructional support, and I think the teachers there can agree, right? It's having somebody else to say, this lesson bombed, and why did it bomb? And, what can I do better next time? Or this was a great lesson, who can I share it with? And I see a lot of that happening now, and I think this year really, it always happened here, but it was in pockets. Now it's more systematic.
So I think we as the Board of Education need to remember that and move it forward.
So I have a quick question for Patty. Patty, I really touched upon, listened to the fact that you said 5 years ago, you recognize that 5 years ago we were teaching one way and now we're teaching another way. With that being said, what was the catalyst for that, number one? Number two, was it in a roundtable type of discussion? And when you start to implement curriculum, do you find you have to do things differently for a teacher that's been here a long time versus a teacher that's been here a short amount of time and is a newer teacher? And then my last part of that is, are they able to openly come to you? Like if they have a problem, are you guys certain points, within a day, within a couple of days, are you finding that they're saying, this isn't working, can you come give me feedback? Like how does the process work?
That phase of it is definitely something that we just started in because we've been so heavily working on the documents themselves and figuring out what is going to be our scope and our sequence. I did get to spend a little bit of time with 3rd grade. They we call and I've got a kid that's struggling with, this particular concept. What can you do? What do you think? What can we do to, to make this better? And just finding some research, doing some research, finding, the latest and the greatest thing and providing them with those resources, to help to reach those particular children that are having that difficulty. So those are things that have kind of just started and where we're really going to focus next year and when we're doing the implementation. What started I guess I just had every year I have a heart to heart with myself. And I say, okay, well, how is this year different or, than the year before, and you do hear, not everyone, but, you will hear, I've been doing this for a really long time. I know what I know what to do. I know what I'm doing. But when you really ask that question, I want you to think back about the kids that you have in front of you right now versus the kids you had in front of you 2 years ago or 5 years ago. Are they the same kids? Are you able to do the same things with those kids that we don't just have one lesson plan book and say, okay, for my 35 years of teaching, I'm just going to follow this same lesson every single time, because you would be a huge failure. You have to really know your kids and you have to adjust.
So even myself not having kids in school anymore, I recognize kids are different because I'm involved with a few other things where kids are in a health and wellness or whatever. And you see that there has to be a different approach for them today based on a lot of things that have gone on in their life, from social media to all of that. Whereas maybe when I was raising my kids, I didn't have to contend with a lot of those things. So I really recognize that I think that's important for our school, is that we recognize kids are different today than they were 5, 10 years ago.
Absolutely. As far as staff members are concerned, I really think it depends on people who stay relevant in their profession. You know, I mean, a big part of it is looking for those opportunities and growing. You know, you can have staff members who've been teaching for over 20 years that are still as passionate and knowledgeable. And then you have teachers that are fresh out of college that have able, you know, to hear about and learn all about the newest things and have a lot of energy and great ideas to add. I think it depends on the person.
Recent can be a dangerous place to be in, so maybe that's what it was.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It was a very informative presentation. I look forward to you continuing your great work, and we're going to get there. Great start. A lot of hard work, I'm sure, but a great start. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the enrollment report.
Enrollment. So last month, we had 412 students at Mary Hampshire, and we still have 412 students as of June 1st. In May at the middle school, we had 292 students. We now have 290. And then at the high school, last month, we had 216 students. We have 217 for a total of 919 students district-wide. That's down 1 student from last month. So if you think about the October 1 report, which is the baseline for the school year, we started with 935 students and we ended with 919 students. I'm not going to go over out of district numbers because I'm sure Dr. Jones is going to go over that. And we currently still have, as far as school students, I think it's around, yes, 68 students currently that we have been tracking.
Question about like the 8th graders, do we have a number of how many are continuing on to the charter lot this year? Or you said that the number was
The
higher.
number is higher. Kim, do you have that number? I can get it for you from guidance. They told me the number was higher,
It was
so
definitely higher than in the past.
I will get that number for you. And I'll put it in my updated.
Is there any discussion on how many of the homeschool we might get back? Or is that now the new norm?
So we've had students move in and out all year long. You know, and we did get some students back and then another group of students went out. So that number in the 60s have really been, 65, 68 have been a steady number, but it looks steady, but it's been a lot in and out. And they go out and then they come back 2 months later. With this huge gap, and then the teachers have to backfill because obviously they didn't maintain the same rigor of curriculum that we're using. They might be using a different home program with a whole totally different curriculum. But we do have a list of students, and we're thinking about maybe reaching out and just saying that, if they're interested in coming back, they need to speak to the principal. The principals will be back like 3rd week of August, and they can speak to the principal if they're interested in coming back to school.
Do we have an idea as to what grade levels they even fall into? Like, are they, or even if is it elementary, middle school, or high school? Forget about the grade. Do we know like what school does it impact most?
Middle and high, I would say middle school seems to be the highest number of students that went out to homeschooling. I wonder if there's a correlation between those kids that were on distant learning and then came back and just didn't like being back in a big classroom, then going back out to homeschooling. I'd like to see that number come down, honestly.
What was, if you were to guess, I don't know, maybe you know the number, 2018 or 19, what kind of percentage were we at homeschool or kind of numbers of homeschooling?
So we were in the 50s.
Okay. So it's not a huge jump.
It's not a huge jump, but it does go up. It's just the disruption between the in and out families, I think, is the most, has the most negative impact on the student, I believe. Because I think the parents hit a point of frustration, they pull, whatever the reason is, right? They pull their child out, they try homeschooling at home, and then come to the realization that this isn't working there either. And then have to make a choice, you know, do I bring my child back into the school system? We always make them feel welcome to come back. You know, I just think an outreach to the people that we have those addresses for, we don't know if some of these people have moved out of town, we don't know. But we put out an olive branch there that, you know, I think next year will be, I guess, a more typical school year. I'm hoping we're not going to start with masks, I hope, and, you know, so the school year will be more typical and maybe more people feel comfortable putting their children back into the mainstream school setting.
Someone homeschooled their children for all of their elementary career and came into middle school as theoretically a fifth grader, but I mean, we can provide a test or something to make sure that they're qualified, you know, they have skill sets to be able to be a legitimate fifth grader. I just would hate that the disruption of having someone that's age appropriate in the class, but not necessarily at the same level as their peers, and having that teacher now having to teach, you know, two different levels.
Well, I guess the first thing I'll say is that's life in public school. But secondly, we do have our reading specialists. Our teachers do assess the children right away. We have recommended to families that this might not be the right grade level because they have such gaps in their learning. And then some homeschool children come back and they surprise us, right? They're learning above grade level because they've had a really good program at home. So taking those students in and really assessing where they're at, it becomes a little more challenging at the high school, if they're coming in from middle school into high school, because now Dr. Mayo really has to check on whether or not, you know, where they're at with all of their prerequisite skills before they get into high school. That always poses a bit of a problem trying to quantify, and usually we rely on the platforms that the parents are using to get an overview of their curriculum and try to match it up with ours.
I have a quick question. And it's the GED question. At what age can a high school student transfer out to get a GED?
Right?
And
Dr. Mayo?
16 parent consent, 17.
16
16 parent consent.
17 without. And does that affect graduation rate if they go and get a GED?
Of course.
Yeah, it does.
One other question, if someone is being homeschooled, do we see that we get an influx before the senior year or during the senior year so they get a diploma from Turtle Island Memorial High School?
That hasn't been the case.
Okay.
Yeah, that hasn't been the case.
We'd rather have stay homeschool. It's just the graduation is homeschool. State recognizes homeschool as an alternative placement. As opposed to GED.
Seriously, wow. Thank you.
Heather's doing the next one.
Turn it to Heather.
Grace is gonna pull up the website so I can see it. Okay, so here is our new website. We contracted with a company called Epio, who specializes in creating websites for schools. We found their templates very user-friendly, very professional. So we have a new district, this is the district website. We also have a new website for each individual school as well. And our goal was just to make things a lot simpler and a lot easier to navigate. So we find the current site a little cumbersome. And you'll notice as I go through here, Bryce will pull up the other sites. They really all have the same look and feel. First, I'll point out the menu scheme across the top. It's a little hard to see from the back, but for the most part, it's the same information as our current site. You can see we brought forward all the departments, all the Board of Ed information, all the policies that were currently on our site. We've also added a section up on the top right for parents and staff so that they are able to access the information that they most usually access quickly. On each school site, we also have a link for students up on the top right too, so that they can quickly access their resources. And if you look under departments, that is also where the curriculum information and the curriculum documents live.
Click on it for a minute.
Yep, he's gonna pull it up, I think. Okay, so you can see it's broken down from the ELA, the math, and the science. So that is where all the curriculum information lives. And going back to the main site, I just want to say thank you to Bryce because he took a lot of lovely pictures with his drone. We were able to put 4 to 5 pictures that continuously scroll, and we can change those out if we want to. We have the ability to add these little widgets. I'm going to click on that. I'm sorry. So you can see it says Board of Education meeting Zoom link. So we can add as many of those as we want. Any important information like live streaming, graduation, or anything like that. We can put them anywhere on the website and add as many as we want. We can also create pop-ups for emergency announcements. If school is delayed or canceled, we can create a large pop-up for anybody that's going to visit the site. And the only way that they can close out of it is they have to physically close out of it before they go into anywhere else into our site. All right, the next exciting thing are the buttons there towards the bottom of the school picture. These are the items that we feel the parents, students, and the staff who visit our website are the most important. So we wanted those front and center. You can see we have enrollment, lunch, the school calendar, the Tyler portal, the bus routes, and job openings. On each individual school page, we also have an area for sports. So if you're a middle school parent and you want the sports schedule, you just click on the sports button. So scrolling down a little more, we have the portrait of the graduate logo and our vision statement. And further down, we have a section for news and updates. So you can click the arrows on the right. If there are more than 3 news stories, you can scroll through all of them. Or you can click show more or show all stories, and it will list all of our important news stories and announcements for you. And these are the ones Danette has added in. I want to thank Danette also because she's copying over a lot of the content for the website and populating this. She's working really hard on that. And further down is the calendar feed section. So this is from our district Google Calendar, and the same thing here. You can use the arrows to scroll through all the upcoming events, or you can click on show all events, which will bring you to our Google Calendar page, which lets you toggle between the other school calendars as well. So you can do one school at a time, you can do all schools at a time, and you can see all the events on that one site. And then finally, on the home page, sorry, Bryce. Finally, on the home page, all the way to the bottom are the social media feeds. The Facebook one doesn't seem to be loading, but we will fix that. So we have the Facebook and the Twitter feed. And that's pretty much it. I hope that you guys liked it. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this to you tonight. I just think it's easy and simple. That's what we were going for.
A question on like the website. I know in the past when I've Googled like Thompson Public Schools, it'll sometimes come up thompsonpublicschools.org or it's Thompson K through 12, Thompson K through 12.
Some of our
And one of the links goes
They
to
go
like
to
an
an
weirdo.
old site,
Yes.
yes.
So has that been resolved so that people don't go to the
we're gonna
wrong-
resolve that. And my last thing I forgot to say was that right now we're working on a new hosting company. The company Edleo is gonna host everything. So all of the old links, they will be taken down, they won't work. And it will take a few weeks in the background to get everything moved over. So as soon as that's complete, then this will be live.
much nicer. I wouldn't even consider using the other one because it was so difficult
Yeah, I
and
think a lot of
difficult to
people
find things.
So
So.
given up on it. Get to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Very nice. Okay. Now we get to the policy approvals. Okay, there's a policy for the gifted, talented policy guidebook. Is that one?
Somebody has a question.
Mhm.
I have a question about this. So this policy, is this, I know there was a gifted talented or an enriched program in the middle school. And I had heard rumblings that they might, and that they were kind of mixing the population a little bit. Is that correct or not correct?
I know the answer to this.
Okay, and if so, does this still apply?
Yeah,
Because
this is my point. So, the lovely ladies here held a meeting at 5:30, to go over some of those concerns for the rumblings that we heard. And the long and short of it is while people had advanced or enhanced listed on their Tyler, they were not getting enhanced or advanced instruction because our children were not ready for those advanced topics because they're coming in either as a fifth grader because they just didn't have the time to get through those course materials, so they were teaching back to get them caught up. So at this point, there will not be necessarily, unless it's specifically identified, but they're going to do it all in the same classroom. But with the new curriculum in place, they'll be able to provide that enrichment in the classroom for those students who are gifted and talented, as well as that extra instruction that's necessary for those students who are not necessarily at standard. Did I explain that correctly?
So my concern is I have actually a child on both ends of the spectrum. My son, excelled in math and other things. And I think if given the same population, he would get bored and act out when he wasn't challenged enough. Whereas my daughter needs additional help with reading, fluency, that sort of business. And so I'm fearful that the population of my son might be mixed in with a crowd of children that maybe not equal, and he might be kind of sitting around waiting for them to catch up, versus my daughter in that same pool, struggling to keep up because there's children that are kind of further along than she is. So I just didn't know how that works out, if there's a difference as we kind of move forward.
I don't know if Kim wants to take this, but so we're still going to have advanced in 7th, 8th grade mathematics. Our kids that learn above grade level, there is a process in the policy that Dr. Jones tweaked. That if we do see that a student is learning above grade level, that there is a process to assess where that student is at. And then move them appropriately into the classes. The beauty of being aligned a couple of periods with the high school is we have been able to offer students like your son to take classes with this too high financial literacy because they were ready for that. And I think that we're going to be doing more and more of that. In 5th and 6th grade, I think you've abandoned the advanced into 5th and 6th. Is that correct?
Yes, so there is the curriculum documents that are put in place are very robust and have a lot to it. And so we're going to live in the document. The beautiful thing is we change the way the 5th and the 6th grade are going to be, the schedule is. So they will have more opportunity to be around different kids at different times with a lot more flexibility that if we find it's not working, we can maneuver. So that way every child has the opportunity to be challenged and also be supported. I think we have to, live in the document for a good couple years and see, but what the ladies have nicely stated is teachers are undergoing a lot of professional development. We've actually worked on differentiating instruction within the classroom. So teachers will be equipped through the curriculum to meet students where they're at. And we have resource teachers that will help students who need the help, reading specialists. And then we also have the strategies and the tools put in place to actually challenge the kids. We have to remember that middle school is a very, there's a lot of maturity that's happening, and every child matures differently. And it's not healthy to stifle them with the same group of kids all day. And they learn from each other, they grow from each other, and they need to challenge themselves. We call that a growth mindset. And every child should be looking at their scores, their data, and being challenged and being trying to want to be better. And the teachers will have the tools and the resources now available because we will have a more in sync curriculum.
And we can't forget that across the board, our students are behind. And that's at every grade level, right? And you ask any teacher, they're not teaching the curriculum that, let's put the new one aside, that their students are behind and it's noticeable at every grade level. So we're going to need a couple of years to kind of readjust, but those students that learn above grade level are always behind. And, we push it a lot with AP and the dual enrollment courses up at the high school. But there are students that need to be enriched. We've had students skip grades because we've done an assessment and we think it's in the best interest of that child and the family agrees. We move students ahead. That's a wonderful problem to have. We love that. I think that looking at students individually is what we're all about. And I think Kim alluded to the fact, I know at the middle school this year, students are actually looking at their own assessment data and they're competing against themselves, not each other. And so they look at their NEWA scores and they're looking at that when the SBAC scores come in, we're getting some preliminary results, which look a little promising. So we're pretty excited about that. But they're going to be able to, make themselves better. Right now, I think over the next couple of years, it's going to take us a bit to get back up to where we're hitting grade level appropriate standards. And everybody's there.
Is there a way, Melinda, we can articulate this in like a newsletter for the middle school families? Yeah.
They had a
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay,
I've
okay.
actually, and I've talked to many parents privately.
Yeah.
I really think it's very important that when people have concerns, they just call me, come in and sit down with me, because I can go over it in a more in-depth way.
Right.
I've also had a parent meeting tonight, also had a very in-depth conversation with the incoming grade 5 parents who are wonderful. We had a 50% turnout, which is kind of what I was going to say in my update. I'll throw it in there now. But, really
Informs parents of what was going on, all about the growth mindset, had them actually look at their child's data while Mrs. Blachek took them through the school. So we had a really good conversation, a lot of conversation about the changes. And I think people were getting very comfortable. We have two things going on. We have parents who are worried about, not getting challenged, students not getting challenged. Parents worrying about, oh my God, how my kid is going to keep up.
Right.
And that's the beautiful part about middle school. They ebb and flow, grow, and they develop, and we have to give them that chance to develop. It's not healthy to stifle them in any way.
So we want, and the curriculum is set up to do that. So I think that the community, once they sit in the curriculum and they see what's going on at the middle school, and I welcome anyone. We had a nice conversation tonight with some parents. I will have another one throughout the summer. And again, phone, call me, come see me. It's really important that people know the correct information.
Well, and that's what happens a lot.
I know, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we will.
Okay.
Maybe just a suggestion,
Mhm.
like, if you do you do family, like?
Every week,
newsletters?
up to date,
Yeah.
I send out and I
So,
even have a section curriculum update.
right, so I think a great thing would be to piggyback off what your kids are doing in the high school and just reiterate showing that in the newsletter so that your fifth, your sixth, your seventh, they're all looking and saying, oh, wow, my kid at so-and-so is gonna have that opportunity. Just, force feeding the opportunities we do have, we're very
That's a
fortunate.
good idea.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
I can tell you after, granted, there were only 2 of us parents at the meeting tonight.
Who are, know the correct
But it was the information that was provided. It actually, I have my daughter who sometimes performs at the higher end of the spectrum. But it's nice to see that they have the curriculum will be, it's flexible where they have those abilities to be able to stretch on either side. And those kids who may not necessarily be performing or are overperforming also aren't being singled out. So I think that's a big problem we have here as well, is whether the kids themselves are saying it like we discussed, or if it's happening with other kids in the hallway where you're in the dumb class, you're in the smart class, this kind of may help temper some of that.
We all work together here at the middle school, help each other grow in all areas.
Yeah. So do we do these individually? Okay.
So I guess Dr. Jones did revise the gifted and talented policy. Actually, it was it guidelines before? Okay.
This is due by July 1st. And so we're meeting that requirement, the state requirement.
So it was tweaked with the current language from some of the samples we got from CABE, which is vetted through their attorney. And then we just married it.
Right.
Change for 2019 with the updated procedures.
Thank you.
So may I have a motion to, theoretically, you're supposed to have a motion before you can ask questions and discussion. There's supposed to be a motion and a second, and then questions and discussion. Keep that in mind for next time, please.
Yeah.
That's Robert's Rules of Order. Okay, but I'll let you. I'll let you have a bye this time, okay? All right.
You can stop them at any time and say, I need a motion.
Well, I know, but we were really deep into it, so, all right. I'd like a motion, please, to approve the Thompson School District Gifted and Talented Student Policy.
Make the motion, Kathleen.
All right. Is there any more discussion? Okay.
Actually, I had one.
Okay.
There's a line in here about budgetary constraints. Gifted and talented considered anything under special education where we would receive any sort of additional funding back from the state for those students? No? Okay. It was worth a shot.
You know, that does bother me
Mhm.
because we are mandated by law to provide special education for those students can't meet some standards. But for the gifted and the talented, it's like you're supposed to identify them. You're supposed to assess them. You're not required to do anything about it.
It's almost like the term special education should be
Exactly.
both sides.
Right, I agree. That bothers me, and I'll go on record saying it bothers me.
And while we're not mandated, I think that each school is doing a nice job. Really trying to make a plan for those students.
Oh, I don't disagree. We as a school are doing it out of what is best for the children that go to this school. But I think
Jody
it's,
Houghton was a big proponent on that. I can remember that was her thing for years, even when our kids were, that was her big thing, like talented did not get any funds at all.
but I just really think it's very short-sighted of the state not to get involved in encouraging and providing for the gifted and talented children.
Have anything in our budget for gifted and talented?
No,
Specifically, no.
no.
Well, that's another something maybe we should look at as a board. I don't know, I mean,
Tom,
oh, I know.
we don't even have enough in our budget for special education
No, I know, but I wonder if we could put it in,
that we're mandated to do.
but is that
Put that question out there, like something new that we could advocate for with the state.
So it's I guess it's our moral obligation, that if we know that students are, overachieving or have mastered the curriculum at a specific grade level. I see elementary teachers here. So I know Kayleen in third grade, if she knows her third grade learner has mastered third grade reading standards, she's going to teach fourth grade reading standards because that student needs it. It's a little easier almost in elementary. It gets a little trickier with scheduling when you get into the middle and the high. However, we've opened up opportunities for students, just by marrying a couple of periods with the high school, having students take Algebra 1, taking some courses up at the high school. We need to do more of that. And we really do need to identify those students, which we have been doing, who do learn above grade level, and we do have to push those students and challenge those students, because if not, they'll end up, in class being bored, and sometimes getting themselves into trouble, just because, the material's too easy. And so a good talented teacher knows how to address that. But you are right, Kathleen, there's not a pot of money set aside just for that group of children. But we're trying to make individual plans for kids, so that they don't become complacent in the classroom. That's the last thing we want to see happen.
fill this in with the whole new opportunities that we're working on and part of the ESSER funds? Is there a loophole that this falls under?
I don't think it's a loophole, but I think as we're doing curriculum work, we talk about what do you do to challenge students that have already mastered those skills. And I think our curriculum leaders will be able to help with that. And also even our individual principals, they know who those children are. And I can tell you who those kids are up at the high school, like I know who they are. And so we've got to make sure we do right by them. Very often, those are the students that we don't do right by. And it's a challenge, and yet just a very nice exercise for a team at a school to go through to figure out, okay, what kind of plan are we going to put together that's going to meet the student's learning needs. I think the dual enrollment courses, the AP courses, we've really expanded all of that at the high school. It's not so much of an issue there. I think it is a more of an issue when you start to notice those students 5 through 8. And then what can we do to accelerate them? It's all about acceleration. They mastered the skill. You need to move them to the next place, not have them collect dust in that classroom for a year, because they will become disruptive or they'll just check out. And we don't need any more of that. So.
Okay. All right, the motion's made, seconded. We've had discussion. I will now put the motion to the floor for a vote. All those in favor of accepting the policy for the gifted and talented students at Thompson Public Schools, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Policy is adopted. The next policy is tuition fees for non-resident admission. The extracurricular eligibility is on the drawing. That's not a policy.
The advanced course place participation.
Which
is
one am I missing?
The advanced course participation policy. That's the one Dr. Mayo did for us.
Oh, okay, I missed one. Sorry about that. Do I have it?
Right after that one.
Hey,
It sat here.
okay. Thought it was all part of that. Sorry about that. I thought it was all part of the verbiage. All right. Sorry, I missed one. Advanced course participation policy. I have a motion. Second. Okay, any discussion on this one?
So when we discussed this in our committee meeting, there's some friction, I guess, not so much within our committee or with Dr. Mayo, but with the state requirements that we're trying to adhere to, which are pretty preposterous on some level, and policy is doing its best to meet that requirement, but the requirement is pretty much.
So every student has to have the advantage, right, of taking either an advanced course, advanced placement class, or a dual, a course that has college credit. And so every student, that's going to be a graduation criteria. So when we think about some of the students that we have in our life skills class, who their reading level is certainly significantly below grade level, how are we going to meet that standard? How are we going to meet the policy? One of the things that we talked about is some of the courses that Mike Joyce offers in tech ed that are QVCC credit bearing. Our new culinary arts program may open up opportunities for us for students that possibly have challenges in reading. And that's how we'll meet the criteria. But I think as a committee and as a group, we find it challenging to have every student either be in an AP class or take a college, credit bearing course. So we're going to have to be creative. I think the students that learn above grade level aren't going to have an issue because we have many opportunities for that. It's going to be our students that struggle with grade level curriculum that we're going to have to be creative about. And can we use some of those QVC hands-on courses to help kids meet that requirement? I think it is going to be challenging.
Yeah, this is another one where we were scratching our heads with what was the state thinking?
I think we all agree about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they put up without providing resource, the state just said, here, put all these kids. It's the district with 25% special ed. Give everybody AP credits. So this is.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
No.
So, I think at some point, we do need to at least get our state district reps involved and say, this is ludicrous. This does not make, we have to adopt it. We're forced to adopt this thing. Well, but it is against our better judgment to say, this doesn't make sense for all our students. It makes sense for 75% of our students, but not all our students want to go to college, nor should they.
And even Mr. Joyce's program, it's to take somebody who, just to shove them in there, that's not fair to the students who want and deserve to be in those particular courses. And we've had this discussion in the committee, and I just want all the educators
Right.
here to understand that, if you've looked at this policy, it's.
It's a new thing that the state has required of graduates?
Correct.
Okay, wow.
So it's.
I mean, not everybody needs to go to college. They can go on to technical schools. They can do all kinds of things after graduation that don't involve going to college. And it's nice, yes. But
I agree with you, Kathleen. I think the underpinnings of putting this policy together was that everyone have access to rigorous coursework, right? That everyone has the opportunity to be able to take that, but to mandate that, students must. I think that over the course of this rolling out, even though it's policy, there's going to be more pushback and more discussion at the state level, because I don't think that every graduate is going to be able to hit this mark. And so and you don't want to frustrate students that that can't do the work or have the expectation, whether modified or not. So I think we're going to have to see what we're able to come up with at the high school, and every student plan will be individual. And I don't know. I like the idea that everybody has access to rigorous coursework. Mandating it is.
So to vote on this policy is to vote on this policy meet state requirement of what they are requesting. And yes, it does, and is worded correctly for our district in that requirement. But, I'm going to vote yes, but with a asterisk. I guess.
exactly, I think we can all vote yes under duress.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's right for all our students. Yet having access is great, but they already do. All our students have access to it. Those that are capable and available, and we more than adequately meet the needs of all the students in the high school with a college advanced placement and all of that. And hopefully our guidance counselors are not pushing, but you know what I'm trying to, encouraging our students to take these classes. So anyway, I will call for a vote. And I don't know, maybe we should write a letter to our representatives and to the governor saying this, and to the,
Education department.
the education department saying this, given the demographics of our school and
I mean, I
given
think
what
it should
we're
be a
already doing.
School mandate to have these courses, but it shouldn't be a graduation mandate.
Exactly. That's well put, well put.
And it's not just our district. I mean, yes,
No.
we've got 28% special ed, but even to not be in special ed, you can still be in general ed and
It's
not
not-
need or want or, just getting through high schools. is
But
an
they do
accomplishment
have
for-
access.
They
to-
have access.
They have access, but not,
So this, it
Just
needs to
not-
get bumped back to the state. And for
Yes.
them to just shove something at us is.
Chris, do you want to weigh in on this whole thing? No, you don't. I know that.
So before we go to a vote,
Yeah.
if we vote yes on this, do we back ourselves into a corner where we have no bargaining if we go to the governor or whoever? Because they're gonna say, well, you approved it. Why did you approve it?
Well, I think we have to be in compliance with it. By July 1, by state law. So we have a policy in place. I just don't see in reality how that is going to flush out.
Right, I'm just saying, as a board, we all abstain, and I'm not saying how to vote. Does that give us more credibility if we go to fight this with the state versus us approving it?
Well, we could approve under duress.
Well, you could approve, but in the minutes say that, you know, you're complying with the law. However, you know, we want to see, you know, how this is going to work in our school system.
Right.
We change our motion.
No, I
Just
think we
throwing it
just,
out there.
no, we don't change the motion. We make a motion to approve this, but footnote the fact that we're not happy about approving it. We're just approving it only to be in compliance, but we don't think it's going to work in this school.
And I have a question. I think I might have asked this in our committee. I don't remember the answer. So what happens, we make this as part of our policy. What happens if we, as a district, don't enforce this part of the policy? We have it, state law, state requirement that we
But
have a
it's
policy.
Probably what's going to happen.
And who is it that's checking up to say, hey, why are 100% of people not taking it? Somebody who's looking at it? Is somebody from the state looking at that?
Not that I'm aware of.
My other question too is we're an alliance district and you would think that there would be like like almost a different policy for an alliance district. Like you're kind of setting us up to fail.
Yeah.
You know? So I hate to say it like that. The state anyway.
And we have some students at every level that have significant challenges with reading. And everything is based on reading. And so those are the students that I worry about. And no one wants to frustrate a student or force them into a course that we all know are going to set them up for failure.
Right.
And then what? Then the behaviors escalate and then we have bigger problems. So we want our kids to be successful. I just think I think they should have thought this through a lot more clearly because it just doesn't make sense. Certainly, we're going to give everyone access. We don't want to deny anyone access just because they have an IEP, right? That they can't take a more rigorous course, but to force them into taking a course, either it's an AP or a college credit bearing course, doesn't make any sense. We're going to try it with the students that we have next year. And Dr. Mayo, I don't know. I know you have plans up at the high school to try a few things and
Special ed, Greenwich has an issue, they get a lawyer, IDEA, it's not compliant with the federal law, it's gonna have to get repealed or taken out completely before these kids get to graduation. All the principals are saying that, they're gonna close nonstop. So there's no way, all we need is one special ed kid with a dad with $2 million in his pocket, willing to go get a lawyer and go after the state, and the state's gonna cower and pull it back. So we have plans put in place to cover every kid, but by the time it gets to those kids graduating, we all believe it's not even gonna be applied.
May I amend the motion?
Okay.
Say, in order to satisfy the state requirement, we motion that this document as written.
Okay.
Yes. That way, we're only doing it for them. It's not reality.
And can we send a letter with our
Yeah, I would,
letter of concern
yes.
with it?
Yep.
And I'll amend my second.
Okay, so the motion is that we will put this policy in effect just to satisfy the state. And I have a second to that. And we will send a letter explaining our reasoning. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Abstentions? Policy, and there's no number on this, that's a, you need a policy number.
And now you'll assign that when you put it in the book.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now's the tuition. Well, so there wasn't a policy number on that other one. So not an official policy without a number. Okay. Not an official policy anyway. All right. Okay. Now, tuition fees for non/non-resident admission. Policy number DFH. I'll entertain a motion to accept this policy. Matt makes the motion and Val seconds. Okay, any discussion on this?
The changes are in red. So going to D about presented in ways which children certified staff. We used to have that in one of our contracts and we got rid of it. So what's the putting this back in?
Retaining and recruiting staff. You know, we're competing with a lot of districts for staffing, and actually it came up this year where a staff member was going to leave because their child care schedule was going to be opposite Thompson's, and so actually interviewed in another district, was going to lose a very good teacher. Louise did tell me that we used to have it in the contract years ago. It doesn't cost the district any money. Obviously, we would only offer a gen ed tuition, but it's also a way to recruit people here. I'm in a bidding war for teaching positions. So just one in particular this week. So I mean, it's not like we're going to advertise it, but when we actually get down to the finalists, it might be one of the things that sway a candidate to stay here or go to another district.
Would we bill that other town or accept them at no charge?
Accept them at no charge, unless they had special education, which then at that point, we either bill them or we have them go back to their residence.
Well, I understand the challenges of recruiting people, but we're gonna educate kids from another town at no cost. That just seems wrong to the taxpayers of Thompson. Now, if we were billing the other town, because I know we do that, we accept and exchange. In the past, we've made some deals, but I can't advocate for that. We worked hard to get it out. I don't know why we would put it back in. Why would we pay for a Putnam student or a Killingly student or a Woodstock student to come here when we can't even pass budget? I think it's wrong.
We do have open seats in most of our classes, and it's just a way of recruiting and retaining staff that we don't have any output financially. It's just another benefit.
I think it would be one thing if we were, we're not displacing any students. We're not talking about a large influx, 2, 3, 4, 5 students over, on a student population of less than 1,000, where we're not filling our school as it is, and I don't.
It's the principle.
I understand that too.
And I don't know how you can say it's not costing us anything, because there is a cost to
There
it,
is.
whether it's meals or the teacher's time or books or whatever. There's a cost to it. And like I said, we worked hard to get it out of a contract, put it back in.
Aside from that, Bill, you have an emotional attachment to that because I understand the negotiation process. But it isn't going to be a lot of students. It may be less than a handful.
I get it, Kathleen. I'm expressing my opinion. that's
Yes, I
all.
understand, and I'm rebutting that opinion and backing up Matt's opinion because it does help in retaining good teachers. And it would help in recruiting good teachers, especially in the environment that we're in today and in the bidding wars, as Melinda said today.
I was unaware of the institutional, the previous reason for removing it. I didn't realize it was there before, but it doesn't make it.
Is there any more discussion? Yes, Heather.
As a history, were there a lot of teachers that took advantage of that policy when it was in place?
No,
No.
not really. Might have been a couple that I remember over the last year, but I just looked at the principle of it.
If this were to be. Say that it's just as. That right now.
It says, no, it does say it.
It's pretty specific about, no.
Yeah, it does, right? It does say Section F, I believe, just said, it specifically says.
That's in section 2.
Mhm.
And somewhere else I read it. and
Yeah.
it Doesn't apply. to
Only general
special ed.
education.
Section 1, letter F.
Yep. Yes.
Would this directly affect the current staff that,
Mhm.
I'm just wondering if there's a potential for this to become an issue with current staff? Has there been an issue or instance where this?
Current staff, yes, there has been an issue with one current staff person who interviewed at didn't take the job, but is going to be looking for another position that's going to be more conducive to childcare. And I think we're going to run into these issues.
Rather see it come back to the board on a case-by-case basis. Let it be a board decision and again, worked hard to get it out.
I mean, it's not something we're gonna put in the employment ad, childcare provided, or your child can come to our school. It's something that will come up, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, would come up in an interview if they requested it or asked that question.
So I do have a question. What you're referring to, Bill, was it a employment contract thing that you've taken out of an employment contract? That makes it an employment right, as opposed to under this, it's the superintendent's discretion. Is that correct?
Or you could put in that the superintendent has to come before the board with it. Not an issue.
This is fine. Yes.
See a couple different things here, and I think this could open up Pandora's box, and I think it's more of an HR issue. Because allow one person to bring their child here from out of state or whatever, and somebody else might come back in 6 months and say, look, I'm having childcare issues too. I mean, I see both sides of it.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Same point, you're working, and childcare is not our issue.
Well, I'm not saying childcare. It's a teacher bringing their child to school
No,
here.
it comes down to childcare.
Okay.
Not the education, because the schedules don't match. Guess what? That's the real world. I had twins. I traveled all around the world. We had to figure out how to make it work. Just saying it. So I see both sides of it.
I mean,
I'm
okay,
not saying-
that's fair. That's fair.
And Melinda, is there a lot of public schools that offer this? Because I know a lot of private schools do.
Yeah, so I know for sure that I talked to Dr. Osba when I was thinking about this based on a conversation that I had with a teacher, and she did institute that in Griswold, so I know that it's
Yeah.
allowable in Griswold. I think different districts do it differently.
Right.
Some charge a half tuition. The $12,000 that we charge now, people couldn't afford that on top of, their salary. So I don't know how else in Griswold they waived the tuition if they had seats available. That was it.
So maybe that could be something that we add to that if there is the room.
I think it said
Oh,
that
it
the
does,
policy
okay,
does
yeah.
say that.
So this is, like Matt had said, just a policy, not a employment.
Right.
Yes.
Correct. But I think that maybe each case comes before the board. I don't have
Yeah,
an
I think
issue
that's
with
a good
that.
idea.
And it's only for 1 year or less. It's not,
Has to be renewed.
it has to be renewed.
Ever granted this in the past? I don't remember coming up.
So it's not like it's not like everybody, it's not a, and it also does state that there has to be room for that student. So it wouldn't be an influx of 50 or 60 students because we don't have room for 50 or 60 students. We'd have to hire additional staff and we're not going to do that.
Why don't we add like the superintendent and the board, or it has to be brought forth to the board for case to case decision. And I think that would probably appease.
Okay.
Yeah.
It says specifically in B, the superintendent or his or her designee shall not hire additional staff to permit enrollment of non-resident children.
Question on that. Is if we're in the hiring process that we're in with the amount of competition that's out there with other districts, if we're putting in there that it does have to come before the board, there's a possibility that that may also chase off those the candidates that we want.
Yeah, but I don't like that. I mean, we don't need to approve that. We've already made an allowance for the fact that if there's available room, we won't hire additional staff. Yeah, so we can't bring on a whole bucket load of kids. Huh?
We're spending Thompson taxpayer money to educate another town.
I hear that, but we're also retaining we're retaining a qualified teacher, which we wouldn't want to lose, or we're bringing in a teacher, which we desperately need at
You
this
don't know
time.
that. You're hoping that could be the case. Could be
Okay, well, I'm rolling the dice on this one then.
people. You know, if you get the votes, you get the votes. But I would rather see it superintendent and board. Letter D may waive the full tuition. If you don't want to, that's totally up to you, Kevin.
Well,
I just-
I'm stating
We
my
worked hard to
opinion.
get this out, and you're just putting it
I
right back
know,
in.
but how much, that was years ago. The times have changed. I was not on the negotiating committee then. I will do what the board wants. Does the board want to amend? You made the motion?
I made the motion. I'm open to amendment. I think that's a good amendment.
It's up to you. You made the
Superintendent
amendment.
under
You made the
approval of the
amendment. You
board.
made you made the motion.
Sure.
I'm not telling you what to do. I mean, do you want to amend it or you don't?
I think it's a good idea. I think
Okay.
that, not that the superintendent would do this willy-nilly, but I think it should come before the board as an expenditure.
Put in, the superintendent will seek board approval.
Okay, so we have to have a special meeting? We'll have to have a special meeting because you just can't have the person hanging out there. They can't wait.
And special meetings for things.
Okay, I'm just making that clear because. Okay. You will withdraw your previous motion and make a new motion then.
I will withdraw my previous motion. Motion it with section D reading. Superintendent will consult with the board, waive the full tuition fee.
Down. Second. Mhm. Okay. So tuition fees for non-resident admission has been amended. The motion has been amended. Well, the motion is there, but the policy has been amended to read that the superintendent with the board's approval, seek board's approval. Having done this, I will now put the policy to the floor for a vote. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Policy passed. Approved. Okay, the lunch program. Have Lisa do that? Okay. Mr. Ray?
So unfortunately, I was at the last meeting, and a few people contacted me the next day to let me know that there was some discussion about some concerns. So I'm here to address those concerns and to share some positive stuff about the program. I tried to go back and look at the meeting, but it's not on, so I don't really know everything that there was concern about, so if anybody wants to ask me now.
So Lisa, just an update on menu choices and, how you're working with students about adjusting your menu, what's changed in lunch services. A conversation about, there was some concerns about the nutritional aspects of some of the lunches. Why more salads aren't being offered, are we making more salads, that kind of thing. So if you could give the board an update about what you've been doing and then the new nutritional things that you're taking a look at. And then they can ask you questions.
So the salads, we do have a lot of salads that we offer now that we've not been running out of, but maybe there was a window when we actually had a jump a few months ago, which Michelle makes a beautiful salad, and we did increase the number of those, so that's not an issue. As far as the healthy, I don't think a lot of the kids realize that everything's whole grain, low fat, baked. We're trying to do more scratch cooking as much as we can do during COVID. We've had some supply chain issues. There was 2 to 3 weeks where our big produce delivery did not come because they didn't have a driver. So we've been like trying to juggle and try to be covering all of our bases. We have yogurt smoothies now that are delicious. I go get the yogurt myself once a week at Valley Side Farms in Woodstock, and we do yogurt smoothies that the kids really seem to like. So that's on now all the time.
You've been doing more of the local procurement since we went into the farm to school.
Right.
And then up there reaching out to the local farm.
Yes. Yep. And I'm actually going to the farmer's market. Not this Saturday because I'll be on vacation, but within the next few weeks, I'm going to make a connection with everybody. Is there something you can do to help us get your food in our school? And what I tell them is, if there's anything you have to offer us, just let me know and we'll showcase you on our menu, which I do with Valley Side and Woodstock Orchards. Woodstock Orchards will get all kinds of squash this fall. We can roast squash. So we are working at it, getting more of that type of thing, but we're limited with our equipment as well. We have our steamer and we have our ovens, but we don't have a lot of updated new stuff to help us with a lot of the new types of foods that are coming out that the kids really want. Although I did purchase some ramen noodles. I got them already. In the fall, I want to start like Pho Friday to do pho. I think that's how you say it. So do pho, is that it? To do broth and offer them different herbs to put in there. They can have like diced chicken or beef in there, like a faux bar. Do that one day a week at least for the kids. We have soup pots that we could put a vegetable broth in, or a chicken broth, or a beef broth, and then have all of these sides and turn it into a meal for them. Do more vegetarian things and do as much as we just have had a really hard time getting certain products this year, gluten-free things and things like that, but we get what we can and for the kids.
You want to talk about the other programs that you're bringing in?
I'm in the process of purchasing some new software, a new software application. It's called Meal Viewer, and it's on our new website. It will be beautiful. It will be a digital menu. You can click on the menu items, and it'll pull up all the nutritional information. It helps allergy issues stand out. It has a thing where if you're allergic to gluten, it'll put a line through everything on the menu that you cannot eat. It's you can get it on your phone, so the kids can get on the phone, and it's very interactive. And there's also a place for surveys, for comments, so the kids can try things and then get back to us and say, they can rate this like a little smiley face, I think, so they like scroll over and I can see all this. We can see all this, so we'll know what they really like and what they don't like. And we're also getting a monitor for the high school cafeteria that will have our menu on it and all kinds of cool nutritional stuff that they can look at while they're in the cafeteria.
Will be like calorie count.
Yep, calories, carbs. sodium, fat. But they can rate the items. They can love an item and that they'll get an automatic reminder when that item comes on the menu again, so they'll know I want to get lunch that day. And the nutrition calculator allows you to view the nutrient info for every meal and to control your dietary health. And you can see it. It'll be on our website. They can get it on their phones. And like I said, if they're on the menu and they hover over anything, it'll bring up all the nutritional information. It might bring up a recipe. It'll bring up a picture of that meal item. It's really pretty cool. And we can make announcements on there. If there's something that we're going to be doing that we want the kids to know about, we can put it out there for them. They can create a profile.
You've been meeting with the students up at the high school.
And I did, after the last meeting, when I heard there were concerns, I met with 4 students in high school and got some ideas. I asked them what their concerns were. And one of them mentioned some food was not hot enough. So what we're going to do in the fall is my serve safe person, that's also one of my sub cooks, is there. So the scratch cooking is all going to be done in the kitchen in the middle school. But as far as the other things like the roasting the vegetables or anything that can go in the oven, that will be done in the high school. So when the kids get there, it's not being transported down the hall. It'll come out of the oven hot. So that's going to happen. And they're just looking for, I talked about the yogurt smoothies. They're looking to have breakfast available in the high school foyer because they're coming, if they're driving in, they don't have time to get down to the cafeteria in the high school to pick up their breakfast. So they're asking if we can offer that somehow in the foyer. I said we could do that. Yes, for sure. And we're going to make homemade granola bars.
Wow.
Yeah, that'll be a good thing. But I don't think they understand that. We have to offer all these components in the meal. We have to offer so many grams of grains, so many ounces of meat alternates. And we feed that into our software to break down the nutrient information, but it's all through the state. They tell us what we need to offer, and we just, like a puzzle, we just make it work. And they don't have to take everything. We have to offer all these items, and they only have to take the 3 out of 5. So I talked to the girls. They were concerned about carbs, and I said, well, then if we did something with a bread, you don't have to take the bread. You could just take that protein and maybe get some vegetables and fruits and that kind of thing, instead of getting that bread if they don't want it. So. Busy.
This is some of the questions that came up last month.
My question is going to be, it seems to be that it's student, if not student driven, at least significantly student participatory. As far as.
I think the software is really going
I think
to.
it's great that the kids are that interested in their own nutrition.
Yeah.
So.
No, it was very informative.
What I had for choices in high school.
I would have failed on that because I just love Friday pizza.
Friday pizzas, yeah.
So I was the board ed member that was speaking to the leadership team, and I spoke to a couple of the students and I told them I'd bring it forward. So I did. And I think what you have set up is going to be great, where they can kind of make more of their own decisions. And I commended them too for wanting to make healthier decisions and just having that availability. And I also wanted to say too, if you're, when you said you didn't have machinery or the appliances, or I don't know what the exact word, is there a way that you can try to come up with what you need and then bring it forward to the board to help you in? Yeah.
Right now, our refrigerator is very small. And I talked with Bill. And our people that come in and service our code equipment, and they're getting specs drawn up for a new refrigerator, at least to house all of our produce.
Right. You're just going in 3 different directions, literally. So, you know, if there's any way we can help you in making, or anybody.
Well, just our counters are very old. We don't have enough like cold units to hold everything, that kind of thing. So I've got somebody doing that for us also. I don't know when that could happen, we have a surplus.
Well, the good news is that finally, in Bill's report will reflect it, the food service is running healthy. A lot of that had to do with Lisa controlling her costs. We were lucky during COVID times to get reimbursed for a lot of meals, which helped put the food service program back into a healthy state. We have control of staffing. Lisa's doing a nice job with that. We have wonderful staff. I see Michelle sitting in front of me. Those cafeteria workers, and Kimmy left a few minutes ago, they work so hard. They're the hardest, they're a hardworking group of women. And so I think she's done an admirable job. And so there is some money there. So the new walk-in cooler, I got a tour, a guided tour of the old one, and I understand completely why we need a new one. And that's a big chunk of money. And so if we can get a new one and then use the other one for the space for storage, because to remove it will cost us more than buying a new one. But that is good news. Helping her food line serving area. We're going to get prices, but obviously that's not on the agenda for this summer, but we might be able to work toward that. And as long as we keep that balance healthy, that we've got 3 months of, I guess, a nest egg there in case something goes wrong. I think that we're in a good position now to be able to buy that walk-in cooler and maybe get the lines fixed. I'm hoping that can all happen. I'm happy that food service is finally healthy, because we can all remember 3 years ago or 4 years ago, it was not healthy. And we were in trouble. But right now, thanks to a lot of variables and your hard work, and I mean this sincerely, and your team. So I'm hoping Bill is going to help you figure out how to get the walk-in cooler in there. I know you're getting specs and prices. So, and we do know that middle school cafeteria, kitchen area does need a refurb. But it'll just, it's on our list of things to do.
And
Takes
you're
time.
feeding over 900 kids 2 meals a day. So, we definitely.
We actually, as enrollment is down, we actually are eating.
Yeah. So, we definitely realize that too. And so thank
And the other thing is that you do believe that we're going to be able to still offer free lunch for the high school students based on your reimbursement calculation.
The elementary kids for this school year coming and the following year, I'll be able to get the free reimbursement rate for them because it's from the DEP program. Eligibility. Because our free and reduced percentages were over 40%. So they'll be that no matter what. So that will help offset the cost of the paid kids in middle and high that we're going to give free meals. But before all this happened, we were doing free breakfast for all 3 schools and free lunch for middle and elementary, and it was working fine. So I have no concerns that we can't continue doing it with high school.
And obviously, they still have to fill out their free and reduced lunch application, because we have to have those on file, but we're able to still offer free lunch for everyone and free breakfast for everyone, and we still are able to keep a healthy balance. We'll see next year how that goes.
I did also want to share our beautiful sign. So for our summer meals, we've actually partnered with, besides USDA and CSDE, Mary Fisher Elementary PTO, now Creation Church, Teague, and the Thompson Library are all pitching in to do activities with the kids. So we're handling the food aspect of it. And they're taking, like Teague will take one day, like a Monday every week, and do activities with the kids. So it's going to be great. This is our beautiful sign that they designed. We also have a nice menu. Our food is on here. And this is all the organizations. So they're showing all the activities. So we'll post it on Winnie. That will go home on our be on our website. We'll get it out.
Do you guys want
Of
for
course,
like
like-
student involvement, like for volunteering during the summer to help people?
That would be great.
Yeah, 'cause
I mean,
that might be something to
We get
somehow
to,
get out to the students.
we get a few kids from East Con normally, that are students here that come and work, and East Con pays for them. But yeah,
We have some students working in the cafeteria in the summer and they get, there is some program from East Con, so they get paid for it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's very nice.
but yeah, I'm so excited about the activity.
Okay, thank you.
So it does not start on Monday though, because now we recognize Juneteenth, but it's on the calendar for starting on Mondays. It starts actually on Tuesday.
I'm excited about the active monitor.
Me too. I'm excited about a lot of things.
I want to know what day Ron is taking.
Yeah. Yeah, you can stop by anytime if you ever want to just check it out, do a walkthrough.
You know, it's interesting. We
Come
were
by
in
during lunch.
Ramen years ago. Who knew that it was going to be hip? We changed the name. College staple. What a hot pot.
Yep, my staff is incredible. They go above and beyond. They've really not stopped working since COVID began. It's been very physical. We've all gotten injuries. But they
Thank
Thank
came
you.
Thank you
back.
for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
I have one question. I see on here, it, for the summer program, it says meals being eaten on site. They can't take it and bring it home or not?
Now, they did that because of COVID. Originally, this program was always, they had to eat on site. Because of COVID, they were allowed to take it off premises.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, next on the hip parade here, Dr. Mayo. Tell us what's happening at the high school.
I stood here a couple of months back and explained issues that Turtle Out was facing. I explained the hiring of Abby Consolo and the plan that we were putting into place. We have a long way to go, but as I stated tonight, I know that we just graduated 55 students this past Friday. We have one more that will be graduating before August 1st. Last year, we graduated 44, although 46 walked across the stage. Of the 55 that walked, 4 were below grade level at the beginning of the year. Ms. Consolo, in combination with our teachers, were able to get them back to grade level and graduate them. 5th is the one that will be graduating before August 1st. As we look at raw data, we are currently sitting at a 12% increase in graduation rate. The increase would not be possible without Mrs. Consolo, Mrs. Olette, Mr. Joyce, Mrs. Williams, Mrs. Spinelli, and Mrs. Tupac, all who ran around the school the last couple of weeks getting portfolios completed and having meetings with struggling students. Mrs. Canny, during that time, was instrumental in securing additional scholarship dollars. I also want to let you know that we have cut down chronic absenteeism. March, April, and May, all 3 months were above 90% for attendance for students. Not where we want it to be, but is a significant increase. We're going in the right direction because of the people that I work with. I've been here 16 hours, 16 hours. Any chance I can go? I'm exhausted. I had an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Kim Granado. What's
Hi,
happening
thank
at the middle school?
Yeah. So this month, the 7th and 8th grade overall leadership group, which stands for Respect Others, Own Your Actions, Act Safely, and Rise to the Challenge. Subgroups presented their year-long hard work to Mrs. Flacek and myself. They've been working on building their confidence and working on their leadership skills. And they presented to the 5th grade all about some topics that they thought were important to the school, which were some heavy topics, including vaping and hallway behavior. And they did a great job and really advocated for things that they felt were important to the school. I commend them on that. We had an exciting end of the year. We had our grade 8 students, thanks to our wonderful PTO, had the opportunity to participate in a carnival. And the kids had a blast. They ended their evening with a dance in the gym. Kids just had a fantastic time. We're very grateful. Grateful to my wonderful staff also who came, supported them. And then we ended our 8th grade celebration with a great ceremony that this past Wednesday. I'm happy to report that the grade 8 class really turned it around and we had a lot of successful students. And we ended our year with the students' final PBIS assembly. Team Nichols won. And yes, and we're happy to report that all colleges had a chance to win. Yeah, the competition was a great thing for the kids. So we went out on a happy note. That's it from the middle school.
Go ahead.
I'll make this brief. It's been a long evening, but so thank you to the PBIS committee and Heidi Devine. We recently had a K-9 presentation. Kids had a blast. Once again, thank you to Lisa Rice and Trish Tupai for organizing the JA field trips that they've done throughout the year. Just two top-notch teachers. You met Miss Jewett tonight. Thanks to her and the third grade team for organizing a field trip to Old Sturbridge Village. Chris Susie this past week in the second grade team went to Roger Williams Zoo, another fun field trip. Congratulations goes out to Mrs. Rossetti. She had a last concert on June 3rd, which was just what a great way to go. She did a really nice job. And of course, once again, congratulations to her on retirement with Phil Scully and Will Porter. Just three really great quality educators. Field day we had last Friday, 20 volunteers. It was a really well organized run machine, and Heidi Devine did a great job. The teachers did a wonderful job. The volunteers did a wonderful job. We did limit the amount of volunteers to 20. We thought that was most important. We did a great job to Dr. Mayo. We just stepped out, but nice job, Ian, Mrs. Spinelli here. For the senior walk on June 7th, that was a really nice thing. And then congratulations to all the parents, teachers, Board of Ed, administrators for just really a great year. It's been a long year, but congratulations.
Thank you. Dr. Jones?
I wanted to start first. Mrs. Carlson, you had asked me going back some time about the special ed placement vehicles that we had on the road. Remember that going back some time? So I just thought it would be a good way to end the year with that number. So we've been at this for 3 years with our Bradley School Wickham County program. At that time, when we had started, we had 13 vehicles on the road at that point in time. To date, we have 7. So we have removed 6 vehicles during that 3-year time period. Okay. I think it's also important to note, just to kind of piggyback on that, we have 29 students that are out of district. Of the 29 students that are out of district, 14 of the students are here in the Bradley School and County program. That program to date houses 24 students. Of the 24 students, again, 14 are Thompson students. But then you have 4 from Putnam, 3 from Killingly, 1 from Brooklyn, 1 from Plainfield, and 1 from Sterling.
Yes. What is in the building as configured right now? What is the capacity for that program?
So then to just come back, district-wide, we have 220 students under special education. We have 77 students that qualify under section 504. That's down from 83 from last month. So our percentage went from 24.67 to 23.93. Open positions, as you heard before, we're still hiring for 4 paraprofessionals, 3 at the elementary, 1 at the high school, 2 special educators, 2 at the middle school and 2 at the high school. our CT SEDS, which is the statewide new IEP system. The training for that starts on July 5th. Our ESY program will be hosting 41 students for academic and related services and another 20 students for walk-in services. We'll have 5 teachers, 5 paraprofessionals, and 5 RBTs that'll be helping with that program. And number 6, we can scratch, that was the gifted and talented that we adopted this evening.
I want to commend you too on the numbers that Bradley grown, because you didn't say that, you said it's gonna take time,
Yes.
and it's
Growing.
growing,
So
so
your vision is happening. And
Even when you look ahead to next year, just, very quickly, we have a student aging out, well, graduating on the 16th at an outplacement, so that number would drop. We have 2 students that are set to graduate from the Bradley program here next year. We have another student that'll age out in March of next year, so that number will come down. So it's just, sheer attrition over time. When you have the right supports in place for students first and foremost, everything will balance out in the end.
Fine job.
Thank you.
I think one thing we should look at next year when it comes budget time is what we just heard, where we went from 13 vehicles down to 7.
And the Bradley program growth.
And the program growth, what is the true quantitative, I think that's another great point when we do our communication pieces,
Yep.
we can add that in.
Sure, there's a ton of work behind that. And a lot of trust building with families to bring their children from an out-of-district placement back into Bradley on site.
Right.
And I commend the whole special ed team and Dr. Jones for doing a lot of hard work. I know we just had another meeting just last Friday, I thought, that was successful, bringing another student back.
In doing so with that meeting, that takes a vehicle off the road, starting for this summer program. And then next year, that student will be in our Bradley program.
Saving a vehicle and a huge out-of-district.
Double the cost.
Very good.
It's not just the tuition piece, it's now transportation too.
That's excellent. So, Bill, where do we stand financially?
Well, I'm pleased to report our available budget position improved from $29,000 at the end of last month to $96,000 at the end of this month. That was driven primarily by continued review of POs that we talked about at the last meeting, combined with just the beginning of a review of grant spending and a nod to Melinda on that, because we had a meeting on this earlier in the week, to really try to put a finer point on that. And that's something that's going to continue on as we enter year end and move on. Year-to-date spending at 16 million, 84% of budget compared to 82% last year. Encumbrances are currently at 3 million, 16% of budget compared to 17% last year. Once again, seeing the effect of some of the work we've been doing around POs. Projected spend is now 19 million or 99.5% of the budget compared to 98.7 last year. Pupil services continues to be the one department with the large overage, although I'm happy to say that that's relatively consistent with where we were last month. As usual, it's driven by tuition and transportation, as we just mentioned. The cafeteria account, Lisa does a phenomenal job with that. Kudos to her for staying on top of the reimbursements. And right now, I think we're expecting something like $125,000 in reimbursements to hit in June. She runs a very tight ship in that regard, and it's really a pleasure working with her on that. Let me see what else. Oh, on another note, I only bring it up because several board members have asked. I was able to successfully complete the Connecticut what's the title of it? School Business Administrator certification. So that's behind me now. So that's all set.
Speed course to
Yes.
get that done.
Yep, congratulations. You're official. Bill.
Which bill?
The other bill.
Bills now.
Don't even.
I didn't say.
Don't even.
He said it.
So compared to last month, I've got no bad news for you.
Hey,
The
thank God. Dr.
The
Finance.
the boilers have been ordered. We ordered the new boilers on May 20th, I believe. So they're on order. I don't have the date on them yet. But next week, or actually this week, the electrician will be in here on Wednesday to start doing electrical work for the culinary arts program and some renovations that we're doing for the Bradley School. Those renovations are paid for by Lifespan. And then Thursday, we'll start doing demolition in those areas to get those ready for prep. And I believe that I will have painters in here, I believe the first week of July to start working on those projects, and as well as the locker rooms in the high school. So, yeah, we've got a lot to do in the next 10 weeks, but one way or the other, when the kids come back, we'll be ready.
Hey, Heather, do you have anything to add besides the
A little
website?
bit. We're in the process of collecting some Chromebooks to replace over the summer. And we were able to use grant money and budget money to buy new Chromebooks. We're hopefully going to be able to replace 3 grade levels. So that's really good. We have a good replacement cycle going each year. And then I won't go into too much detail. We have several state reports that we're going to have to complete over the summer. So as they come up, I'll talk more about them. And then we have 3 paid interns starting with us this month to help sort through those Chromebooks and repair some of them and just kind of go through them.
Great. Michelle, do you have something to add to this?
All I'm working on right now is open enrollment for the school district in the town. And that will be completed by June 24th. And I'm finishing up any and all outstanding requests from any and all staff so that everyone can have a great, wonderful, and relaxing summer while I hit the ground running for school year 22-23.
Thank you. And Shannon's not here, so Deb, how's? Okay. Buried my thing. Do we have any old business to discuss? I think so. I think the food thing was the only old business that we had. And Lisa, you did a good job covering that for us. Any new business anybody wants to bring up? Yes.
Is there any way to get an update on like what the bullying policy is and how that's being implemented and addressed?
So we have a bullying policy that was updated a few years ago in alignment with state regs. Each bullying case is investigated. That investigation is complete. I mean, I've gotten copies. Both the victim and the bully parents get a copy of that report that's sent home. And if there's a conclusion of bullying, then a safety plan is put in place for the student who has been bullied. And for the student who is creating that situation, a plan is in place for corrective action on that student side. And so that's been pretty consistent across the board. So, and the administrators are adhering to it because I get bullying reports. I can probably find out this year how many per school and report back next month, how many bullying reports have been formally, because we need a parent or we need a student to formally write the bullying complaint, and then we go forward. Obviously, they're going to do investigation when a student reports that they're being bullied, but to get a formal report, we like to have the parent feedback on that, fill out the form, and then we still go forward with the full investigation. So I get copies of those, and I know every principal has sent them to me. But officially formal bullying investigations, I can get you a number.
If we could do that, and then, wanted to see, I know it was, pre-COVID, but you had done a, presentation on like what the school safety protocol would be, like if we were to have like a massive evacuation or an incident before, not necessarily going into every security protocol, but is there a way that we could possibly do an
Like another
updated one?
parent meeting?
Yes.
Sure, and I think it would be prudent to do that anyway, now that we have a new security coordinator. Parents would like to meet that person.
Right.
So we can do that before school starts in August.
Okay.
Yep. And just so you know, Greg Galut and I are attending the Woodstock Academy Safety and Security Conference next Monday and Tuesday. So hopefully we're going to get some different information with that updated workshop.
Okay. I've not received any correspondence.
Ellington Board of Ed that they wanted us to approve. You get it?
Mm-mm.
Get it?
Okay.
Forward it to you.
Please forward it. Thank you. Right, citizens' comments.
My granddaughter just finished preschool and had her first class. She loved it. Loved it, loved it. And wonderful job with the parents that are in her class. She's so excited to be here. I love it.
Word. First off, a couple of things. I'd like to publicly thank Ben Barber for the job he did. You know, building the security and bringing it to where it is today. Not perfect, but he brought it from nothing to what it is. And I want to congratulate Greg Gillott for taking the job over. But what I really would like to see is some kind of maybe a quarterly meeting with the security coordinator, with the Board of Ed or subcommittee, just to kind of review and see the difficulties that he's having, what's working, what's not working. You know, I think it's very important as one voice in that department. We don't want conflicting information. Windows can be open today, they can't be open tomorrow, all that kind of stuff. So I'd like to meet with them quarterly. And the other thing I've been meaning to ask since budget season is and you can get me the information, when we rent out the facilities, the auditoriums or the gymnasium, we have different rates we charge different people. What's the effect on our budget? Are we charging everybody? Are we charging them? Do we need to update the rates this coming year? You know, that kind of stuff. I just don't know if it's worth talking about, or we have a lot of people in here, so maybe Bill can pull some kind of report, send it.
Yeah, basically, we did send out letters to everyone. Not only do they have to pay for, obviously, the facility, they have to pay for custodian, security, and if they're going to use the sound booth, they have to pay for Bryce. So we did update that this year, so we can.
Oh, we did?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't know if we need to update prices this going next year.
You want to take a look at the prices?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just curious how many people actually used it. Did we make a ton of money, or did we just kind of break even?
Yeah, we didn't make a ton of money.
Ballpark, how many times a year do we rent out, say, the auditorium?
The auditorium in June is rented out for a few days for 2 dance groups.
Right.
So that's for the bulk of the auditorium use or, yeah.
It's not a highly sought after thing.
No, I would say 2-3 times a year.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
I would second the motion.